So as everyone probably knows, if you guys didn't, I'll tell you right now, we have a Mystic Summon event coming to the game in 2 days, as of this today's release. And this Mystic Summon event is basically a custom Mystic banner where you can choose a Moonlight 5-star and a Moonlight 4-star unit to choose and pull for. And the pity from the previous banners, such as this one with all these Moonlight units, or Dragon King Shroon's banner, and etc., they will all still carry over to this new Mystic banner. It's basically just a regular Mystic banner, you're just choosing the units. And if you actually pull on this banner and you don't get the unit, you will actually keep that pity into the next system. In the past, we had something similar where it would use a coin system, but now they actually remove that coin system and they're actually just having the pity carry over, which I think is a lot better because a lot of people didn't participate in the past. You didn't have 10,000 mystics saved up to guarantee that unit. So I think this will allow for people to participate without having that unlucky chance to not pull the unit and miss out and lose all their mystics. And this banner will be very nice. No new Moonlights will be released during the event, so you have a month to actually just chill and actually choose one Moonlight 5-star and one Moonlight 4-star that you actually want to get. And today we're going to be talking about 5-star units, and we're going to be talking specifically about PVE. I'll be talking about PvP in a separate video, as well as 4-star units in both respectively PvE and PvP as well. So 4 separate tier lists, but for now we're going to talk about 5 stars. And if you scroll down here, there's going to be 3 units that are not available from this Mystic Summon event because they released 2 recently. That is going to be Abyssal Athene, Dragon King Shroon, and Eternal Wanderer Ludwig. And we have 4 tiers here. The strong tier, these units will be very strong in PvE, used in a lot of areas of content. The good tier, these units are either very good in 1 or 2 areas of content, or they are just, a little bit stronger than average in most areas of content, not as good as the strong units. And these some uses, they have very niche uses, and we'll talk about where you can actually use these units to actually see success. So let's talk about these strong units first. So starting off, we have Spectre Tenebria. Now most people probably have this unit because she is available very early on into the game from the Moonlight Blessing. And if you don't have her and you are looking for a good PvE Moonlight 5-star unit who's also good in PvP, Spectre Tenebria is your best bet. She's extremely strong in Abyss, Nightmare Raid, just everywhere in Adventure. She has poison built into her kit, which will scale with the boss's damage. In PvP, she's extremely good into Guild Wars because she can be very good against non-AoE attacking defenses. She's also good in RTA for the same reason. If you pick her into non-AoE attacking teams, she becomes a must-ban. Just a very solid unit overall, and she's very flexible. She hits extremely hard. She's very safe with her passive. And her S3 also does a ton of damage, even in PvE, because it scales with the amount of debuffs on the target. Next we have Strays. Strays is the king of hunt one-shot. You can use him to one-shot hunts pretty much every hunt in the game if you have him pretty geared up enough on like Rage set or Torrent set, right? And you can actually keep him on one set of gear and make him one-shot every hunt, which makes him very good. You don't need to separately build like your Sigrid, your Baiken, your Fire Sirmia, and stuff like that and spread out your gear very thinly and actually have to farm a lot of gear. So Strays makes it super easy because you need less gear, less good gear to hunt one-shot everything, and also the gear requirements on him are not as high as some other one-shot units out there. Next we have Conquer Lilius in the strong tier. Most people think she's only a PvP unit because she's so good there, but in PvE she's very good as well. She is pretty much mandatory to score high in Hall of Trials. I wouldn't say mandatory, but she makes it a lot easier with her dual attack and her vigor buff. And because she's a warrior, she can hold some very good artifacts to apply debuffs. And also because she is super strong in Ancient Inheritance, and she's also good in other areas of content as well in general because her S3 is just broken and her S1 is just broken as well. But mostly I have her this high up because of Hall of Trials. I think Hall of Trials is a very important area of content now because we have so many exclusive equipments. And if you're looking to get good scores with relative ease, Conquer Lilius cheeses a lot of the Hall of Trials bosses and will get you SS or SSS pretty easily. After Conquer Lilius, the last unit we have is Navy Captain Landy. Navy Captain Landy is pretty good because she's a knight, so that makes her a very strong knight in expeditions. You can put her in the front, and she does a ton of damage while having built-in sustain, and even though she takes that knight slot, she will do extra damage for you, so she's very good there. She's also good in any areas of content where you need good AoE damage. Honestly, her AoE damage is pretty consistent if you build her on a PvE build. By that, I mean like a higher speed build. She actually does pretty decent AoE damage if you get good procs. If you bring her with a unit that can dual attack like Tamarin, she's very strong. So for that reason, we have her pretty high up. Honestly, some people might put her lower here, but I think she's pretty good because you can pretty much keep her on the same build for 5 expeditions, and she's very good there. And she does a ton of damage, so I think she's a pretty good unit. She's also pretty good in Nightmare Raid and some areas of Abyss. And even in adventure mode, she's a pretty good AoE damage dealer that can also tank for your team in the front line. So now we're getting into the good tier. These units are still very good, just maybe not as strong as these strong units. So Lone Crescent Bologna, very strong AoE damage dealer. She has no debuffs, which is very good. And she actually has a vigor buff for herself and can even vigor buff her team. And she actually hits very hard. Honestly, I think you could even say she's in the strong tier, but I'm going to keep her in the good tier because she's just a pure damage dealer. That's all she does. And we already have a ton of those in the game. You have like Green Landy, who's an RGB unit. You have like Bomb Model Kana, who can actually buff your team as well. Just there's a ton of pure damage dealers. And you can even use like Commander Lorena as an example as to why pure damage dealers are very good, but sometimes you want more out of a character's kit for PvE. So I'm going to keep her in the good tier. She's still very good all around. She's a very good jack of all trades. You can pretty much slaughter her in anywhere where you need damage, and she'll be good because she has a ton of AoE and a ton of single target. Next we have Apocalypse Ravi. She's in the good tier because she's a very good frontline unit for a lot of areas of content such as Ancient Inheritance, Adventure Mode, and Automaton Tower. But to be honest, the areas of content she's good in are not that hard. That's why I can't put her any higher. So she's gonna stay in the good tier. If she was good in like Nightmare Raid and like I don't know, like some hunts, I'd put her higher, but for now, or even expeditions, I'm gonna keep her in the good tier. Martial Artist Ken, very similar to Apoc Ravi. He is gonna just, be in the front, take a lot of damage, counterattack a lot, and he is another jack of all trades. Similar reason to Apoc Ravi, he's not really good in the hard areas of content, so we're gonna keep him in the good tier as well. Arbiter Villager, just another AoE damage dealer. Honestly, he should be somewhere like down here now, I think, but I'm going to keep him in the good tier because he's very good in adventure mode for AoE damage, good in some hunts such as Azimnak and even Banshee, and he's also pretty good in some Automaton Tower and Nightmare Raid, but to be honest, nothing too special. He's just a regular AoE damage dealer with a revive that makes him a little bit more safe. But his damage isn't as good as other units now, such as like Crescent Bologna, so he's going to be at the bottom of the good tier. Next, we have Meteor Cowrick, so some people might put him higher up here. Honestly, I think he's a little overrated for PvE. He's only really good in Ancient Inheritance. Anywhere else, you're not going to really use him, because if you need a unit with Cleansing, you will just bring 3-star unit Angelic Montmorency. She's way better at Cleansing, she has healing. Yeah, I don't know really why you would take Meteor Cowrick. I guess he has an attack buff. But a lot of units in the game now for PvE have attack buffs, and the best PvE unit, Tamarin, has a built-in attack buff, so you're not going to really need one for the most part. And I think Meteor Cowrick is just a little bit overrated, but he's very good in Ancient Inheritance, don't get me wrong. So now we have these some uses tier, so we're going to go by these a little bit more quickly. We're just going to talk about where these units can be good. I'm not going to say they are good there, but they can be good. So make Chloe, Ancient Inheritance, she's pretty good. Attack buff or revive up. She also is good in Banshee one-shot if you really need an attack buffer. You don't want to use her there though, because usually with Banshee one-shots, you don't want to use a unit with a S2 passive, because if they S1 on the boss, they can actually trigger a dual attack, and that screws up your run. So she's like okay there, but besides that, you're not going to really use her. Blood Moon Haste, only good in Azimnak 13. He's very good there actually, but he actually doesn't speed up your runs, he just makes them safer. And Azimnak 13 is already pretty easy and not really needed to farm anymore as much as before, because immunity set's not that good as much as before. So just some uses for Azimnak, I guess. Lionheart Sirmia, good into anything with extra attacks, dual attacks, counterattacks. Basically anything that triggers her passive S2, because she does a ton of damage, but there's not really a lot of bosses, and the ones that do trigger her passive, you want to bring other units. For example, like Nightmare Queen, yes, you can bring Lionheart Sirmia and she can go off, but for the most part, you want to bring more units with more sustain and more built-in defensive capabilities. Lionheart Sirmia can be used there, but there's just better options. Ruel, she's good in Abyss, that is it. Pretty much for stages where you want to cheese with Revive and Invincibility, she's good there, but besides that, not really anywhere else. Last Order Crow, I've seen him used in some Nightmare Raid bosses. He's actually not bad. He has immunity, it's a ton of AoE damage. He's a knight, so he can hold Aureus. Also has pretty decent mitigation for his team. And yeah, he's pretty good in Adventure too against some bosses that have a lot of AoE. But besides that, not going to use him anywhere else. So that is pretty much the tier list. There's not a lot of good PvE units for Moonlight 5 stars because all the recent ones that just got added to the pool for this Mystic Summon event, they're all for PvP. In the last event, this list was like 10 units shorter, and it looked a little bit more balanced because you would have 60% of these units usable and 40% that weren't. But because Smilegate's really pushing for PvP units now from the 5 stars, you're kind of seeing this kind of skew to the bottom here, so can't really be helped. but it is what it is, and I think they see Moonlight 5 stars as mostly PvP units, which kind of makes sense. So yeah, obviously the units that are not used, they're mostly for PvP, so you're not going to really use them. But if you have any units that you want to switch up in this tier list and you think should be in different areas, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think, and I'll see you guys next video.